Katie, an American author, once said, "The basic tool for the manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words. If you can control the meaning of words, you can control the people who use the words." Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, here I am Nur Teresa, going to present about a study on how does Edgar Allan break the rules of communication in the short story The Telltale Heart. Before we come into our discussion, let me explain the study background of this study. First, we should know about the cooperative principles. In order to run a communication in an effective way, we should follow these rules. These rules were proposed by Paul Rice in 1975, or the cooperative principles, or also as well known as the Maxim principle. The first is Maxim of quality. In communication, we need to tell the truth. Be true for what you say. And the second, Maxim of quantity. We have to be brief. We don't need to give more or less information than necessary. Thirdly, maximum of relevance. We need to be relevant in communication. We have to follow the run of the context in the conversation. And the fourth is the maximum of manner. We need to be clear and not to be ambiguous in communication. But although there are these four rules, people not always follow these rules. The maxims can be flouted or violated. It depends on the intention of the communicators. And now, talking about the short story The Telltale Heart. The Telltale Heart is a short story published in 1843 by Edgar Allan. As you can see, the illustration I provided here, the story, what would you think the story was about? If you can see here, the short story is dark and with horror settings and eerie settings. Yes, The Telltale Heart is an American dark romantic story. It tells about the narrator, a man who didn't want to murder the old man. Why? The reason, his motive, was not really clear because what he hate is that the vulture, the eyes like a vulture of the old man, and then he plans to murder the old man. And after committing his murder, he hid the body of the old man because he wanted to conceal the truth. And not long after that, there are three police officers came to visit his house in order to investigate the truth of the case. But the narrator hid the truth and tell lies. This study aimed to understand what the author wants to express in his work, so that we can find the violation that apply in the short story, and we can avoid misunderstanding and also misinterpreting. In this study, I used qualitative method. The data were collected and analyzed to find the violation of maxims in the Telltale Heart. The previous studies related to this research analyzed the syntactic structure, the theme of time, dramatic irony, emotional insanity, and also imageries. No studies have been conducted in analyzing the violation of maxims in the Telltale Heart. And now, we come into our first discussion. It is about the violation of maxim of quantity that is found in The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. In the short story, I find there are two violations of maxims. Violation of maxim of quantity and also violation of maxim of quality. And in this finding, you can see you should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. In this context, the narrators wants to emphasize that he was not a madman. Because if he was a madman, if he was a real madman, he would not be able to plan a well-structured plan to murder the old man. So, in this finding, the author uses repetition in the phrase with what caution, with what foresight, and also with what dissimulation. Because he wants to emphasize this idea in this context. But instead of using repetition, actually, we can just say like this. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded with what caution, foresight, and dissimulation I went to work. Instead of repeating the first with what, we can just put a punctuation commas in here. But it is the style of the author that makes it emphasize to the readers that the narrator was not a madman. And next, it is also about the violation of maximum of quantity. Now, in this finding, I moved it slowly, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. Here again, the author uses the repetition in the adverbs slowly, very slowly. In this occasion, the narrator wants to emphasize that wants to describe his slow manner of his action. In this context, the narrator wants to run his plan to murder the old man. He sneaked into the old man's room, he opened the door slightly, and until he can thrust his head in the slide door, so that he can see the old man sleeping. But instead of using repetition, actually we can just say like this. I moved it very slowly so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. We can just use this. I moved it very slowly. No need to repeat the words or the phrase. So, in other words, we can say that if we violate the maximum of quality, it means that we give or we deliver too much information, as we can see in my finding in this study, in the telltale heart. Next is the violation of maximum of quality. In this context, the narrator was visited by the officers after committing his murder, and the officers investigated the narrator. But the narrator stated that the shriek I said was my own in the dream. Of course, here the readers know that it was absolutely not the narrator's scream. So here, the narrator avoids admitting his crime. He tells a lie to hide the fact of the old man's scream. Next, this is also in the same context with the previous discussion. The narrators answered that the old man I mentioned was absent in the country. So he concealed the truth that he knew the old man. He he doesn't know. He doesn't know where the old man was. He was somewhere else. He was not in the place or in the country. Here, also in the same context and discussion, the narrator avoids telling the truth by mentioning that the old man they are looking for is not even present in the country. So, in other words, we can say that if we violate the maximum of quality, it means that we cannot prove evidence of what we say. It means that we tell untrue condition. We can conclude that in the Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, we can find two kinds of violation of Maxim's principle. These are qualitative maxim and also quantitative maxim. This writing style aims to create a complex story that can engage the reader's attention in the story. That's all for me. Thank you.